just one gun, they'd be alive today. Just one gun.
Hi, I'm Alex Kincaid, and welcome to the Gun Law Podcast and my Office of Truth. Not the Oval Office, but a fantasy office where we hear the truth about our country. No freedom-loving, law-abiding American wants to listen to any more of Obama's politically correct but factually incorrect, dishonest, and predictable speeches. Sometimes I find myself fantasizing that I'm listening to a president who loves our country as much as I do. A president who believes in freedom, who believes in our Constitution, all of it, including the Second Amendment. What would it be like to listen to a true leader of the American way of life, a protector of this great country? Give a speech after an attack like what we witnessed in Orlando, or what we witnessed in Dallas where our law enforcement officers were slaughtered. A speech that would make us stop and listen and not make us cringe and be angry over the lies and the cover-ups and what appears to be the falling of this great nation. But a speech that would inspire us to do great things, to come together as a country, to look to our founders and the freedom for which they fought and gather our strength to fight and protect it. In television and radio interviews about gun control, the hosts almost always ask me, well, if the answer's not gun control, then what is it? Call it a fantasy, but in my head, the leader of our country would have that answer and he would tell it to the American people, and it goes something like this. Americans are under attack. Criminals violently attack and kill law-abiding but disarmed Americans every day. They enter our homes, they violently attack us on our streets, and they slaughter innocent school children. We are also under attack from a special kind of criminal, a criminal whose goal is to establish laws that are the antithesis of American freedom and beliefs. These special criminals wish to establish their Sharia law throughout the world by killing those who do not subscribe to their religious beliefs. They are terrorists. And these terrorists target us where we work, where we socialize, and where we live. We have watched as they kill innocent civilians with explosives at airports. They burn us with gasoline, drown us while trapped inside cages, and behead us in parking lots. These attacks occur in our homeland and internationally. A few weeks ago, we witnessed the stabbing of a French police officer outside his own home. And the murderer followed this act by streaming video on the internet while he tortured the man's defenseless family inside. 3 weeks before last Christmas, a jihadist couple, an American citizen, the son of a Pakistani immigrant and his Pakistani wife, who had been welcomed into our great country on a fiancé visa, carried out a jihadist attack in San Bernardino, California, killing 14 people. These jihadists have also infiltrated our military bases on our own soil, killing innocents and fellow soldiers. Most recently, in Orlando, they carried out the largest attack in America since 9/11, killing innocent, unarmed victims in a gun-free zone. They arm themselves with firearms even when the laws make their possession of these firearms illegal. These criminals and terrorists do not respect us or our laws, and we can never be sure where the next attack may occur. One thing we know for certain is that each and every attack so far has occurred where civilians were known to be unarmed and defenseless. For this reason, I am taking emergency executive action and ordering all gun-free zones null and void. Any laws creating gun-free zones will not be enforced. And I'm asking Congress to organize a special committee to study and to report that these gun-free zones are nothing but killing zones, and then to pass laws eliminating all gun-free zones. I'm asking the courts who may review any laws affecting a citizen's ability to keep and bear arms and to ensure that our Second Amendment is not violated. I am asking Congress to eliminate all bans on semi-automatic or other types of firearms and to make a statement to the American people that any bans on gun ownership, any laws that seek to restrict law-abiding Americans' right to keep and bear arms do in fact violate the Second Amendment of our great Constitution. And it is unconstitutional to prevent Americans from defending themselves, and our citizens cannot be disarmed while our enemies slaughter us. In the wake of these attacks, the fight to protect our entire Constitution, and particularly the right of the people to keep and bear arms and to enjoy the protections of due process, grows more intense. Our country is divided on the ownership of firearms by civilians. The anti-gun Americans focus on inanimate objects, the firearms themselves, rather than the criminals and the terrorists behind the trigger. These Americans believe that by enacting more gun control, the criminals will be controlled. This belief is a fallacy. Our firearms have protected us throughout history, and we will not be a nation that takes away arms from the citizenry and renders them defenseless. The population who propose more restrictions on Americans' right to keep and bear arms stems from a lack of knowledge and understanding of firearms and of our laws. These folks do not understand basic functionality of firearms they seek to prohibit. They confuse the difference between AR-15 style semi-automatic rifles versus true assault rifles. They believe cosmetic features of a firearm somehow makes it more or less dangerous. They are as ignorant of the importance of allowing Americans to defend ourselves with semi-automatic firearms as they are of facts and of history. They propose and enact laws that leave our citizens disarmed and dead. This type of thinking has resulted in our own Department of Homeland Security issuing written advice to employees who must work in gun-free zones, to hide or throw objects at an active shooter. This is unacceptable for the American people. Rather than impose more bureaucracy on law-abiding, gun-owning Americans, I will fully fund the FBI to allow them to properly investigate, apprehend, and successfully prosecute the real criminals and the terrorists. We will seek the highest sentences for those who use firearms for murder and other violent crimes. We will not let our school children be slaughtered. We will arm our schools so that our children are protected. I am sending our Vice President to meet with state government officials, state by state, to discuss what can be done in each state to rid ourselves of unconstitutional laws. I am asking Congress to research how we can arm and train more Americans. I urge all law-abiding, competent Americans to arm themselves. If you do not own a firearm, take training so you can protect yourself and your families. Our military and law enforcement officers will focus on the war against these terrorists, but individual Americans must also be strong and be able to defend ourselves when law enforcement officers are not close at hand. We must acknowledge that allowing refugees from the Middle East puts Americans at risk. We must not be blind and allow political correctness to triumph over common sense. Those refugees who have already arrived in the United States of America will be returned to their country. We will not risk American lives and allow them to carry out their goal of imposing Sharia law on America. These haters of our freedom, of our Constitution, and of humanity will be destroyed. We will infiltrate each and every terror cell in America and destroy them. Our military will undergo the most advanced and vigorous training possible. We will arm our soldiers with the most advanced weaponry possible, and we will annihilate this enemy. We will deal with the reality of Islam and place the blame not on law-abiding Americans who wish to arm themselves and protect the innocent, but on radical Islamic terrorists. Finally, it is with disappointment and a heavy heart that we must acknowledge the corruption and the enemies within. Overwhelming evidence has been presented showing that some government officials, including former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, have purposefully put our country at risk of further attack, and her inaction in a time of crisis caused the death of Americans who pleaded for help. Similarly, we know that former Attorney General Eric Holder purposefully sent firearms into the hands of criminals. Those firearms have been used by terrorists in Paris and on American soil to kill civilians, soldiers, and the law enforcement officials. We also know that our current Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, met privately with former President Bill Clinton. And the conflict of interest, particularly in light of the lack of progress in formally prosecuting what are obvious violations of law and breaches of national security by Hillary Clinton, must be acknowledged and brought to light for the American people. It is apparent that justice is not being accomplished in this and other instances within our government. I am therefore funding a special investigative task force to review the investigation against Hillary Clinton, to review all evidence, to gather further evidence against her and other officials, to ensure that justice is accomplished. This special task force will have all assistance necessary to bring the real criminals and the terrorists to justice. We the people must stand strong despite the attacks on this great country. As I finish tonight, I am thankful to all Americans for letting me be your president, to have me in your homes as together we stand resolute in protecting this great country. Tonight, I leave you with words spoken by our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. Good night.
Just one gun could have stopped the madman in his tracks. Just one gun, they'd be alive today. Just one gun.
This is an important message about your liberty.
So the notion that gun laws don't work It's not borne out by the evidence.
We need universal background checks. We know that they will work. We need to...
Politicians continue to call for more gun control. Yet so many laws already exist, the American gun owner is often left confused about the legality of their own common everyday behaviors. Attorney and former prosecutor Alex Kincaid knows that too many responsible gun owners violate laws that they don't know even exist. And her goal is to stop that. Now get Kincaid's new book, Infringed. Larry Pratt of Gun Owners of America says that Infringed should be on the shelf of every American gun owner. Infringed debuts November 25th, but pre-order today and receive an autographed hard copy edition at $5 off. Visit alexkincaidlaw.com now. That's alexkincaidlaw.com. Get Infringed. Get it today. alexkincaidlaw.com.